to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. Look like a woman, act like a lady, move like a ninja, and think like a warrior. And of course, an author too, the author of the book, The Reluctant Ninja, How a Middle Aged Princess Become a Warrior Queen, other than Miss Cheryl Ilov. Welcome on Book 101, Miss Cheryl. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Daniel. First of all, I really, really appreciate it. And gosh, I don't know. I guess you pretty much covered it with my intro, but there's of course more to my background than that. I am what I call a recovering physical therapist. Physical therapy was my second career. I started my professional life as a respiratory therapist. So I've had a total of 40 years combined in the medical profession, one as the respiratory therapist. And then as a physical therapist, I actually had my own physical therapy alternative care clinic for almost 20 years. And I just decided, because of my own personal experience with pain and a very serious injury that I had, plus my experience in physical therapy, was to write the book because I think that people don't understand that we all have the ability to heal ourselves from injuries, from a lot of different things, as long as we do things the right way. And in traditional physical therapy, you get a list of exercises, you get, DC-9 codes, you get all of these things. It's like the profession puts you in a box and gives you, okay, this is the remedy, but then it doesn't work. So through my own personal and professional experience, I figured more people need to understand how their body works, what happens when we get injured, how we can heal ourselves, and to empower ourselves that when we do get injured, or when we do need help, that when we go to the medical professionals, we have a list of things that say, okay, this is what I'm feeling, this is what happened. So you're actually working as a team instead of going to somebody and saying, oh, please fix me. Because a lot of times that doesn't work very well.
Oh, please fix me. Oh my goodness. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Cheryl. Thank you. And today let's talk about your latest book. What was the inciting incident in your life that forced the middle aged princess to finally and reluctantly consider becoming a ninja?
Oh, that is such a good question. It all started, and I told you this before we began recording, but just so the listeners know, um, I met I met a man. He was actually my acupuncturist. And the very first time I met him, I was 44 years old, and I went to him for treatment. And the very first thing he said to me as he started putting needles in my legs, because I'm a dancer, I've got very strong legs, he got a faraway look on his face and he said to me, with your legs and my coaching, I could teach you how to kill with these things. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in the presence of a crazy person. I need to grab my purse and run. But he literally had me pinned to the table because I had needles sticking out all over me. I couldn't get up and leave. So I just says, well, no, thanks for the offer, but no. Well, it took him 3 years to finally convince me to take some classes with him. And the precipitating factor was something he didn't know when I met him was I had experienced a pretty significant trauma just a few months before I met him, and I never told him about it. I didn't tell a lot of people about it because when I tried to get help and tried to report the incident, all I got was blank stares or no, that can't happen. You're making it up. So I did what a lot of people do. I just pasted a big smile on my face and I pretended everything was fine and went about my life. And everything wasn't fine. And it took about 3 years when it finally just came spewing out, and that's when I told Mark, my sensei, what had happened. And he went on this a campaign to get me to take classes from him. That's when he really dug deep. He goes, "You've got to take classes from me. This will give you your power back. This will, help your confidence. This will do all of these wonderful things." And I just looked at him and I said, "I don't understand how hanging around a smelly dojo with a
Mhm.
bunch of sweaty men who are trying to attack me is going to make me feel any better." And he just he wouldn't give up. The man was so stubborn. He's like a dog with a bone, and finally I said, "Okay, I will take a few classes just to learn a few techniques of self-defense because I think every woman should have that.
Mhm.
And then I'll prove to you how much I'm going to hate it, and then I'll quit." And 10 years later, I became his first female black belt.
Congratulations.
Thank you. In 20 years of teaching, he never had a woman achieve such a high rank. And at the time I was 57, it was just crazy. And since that time, only one other woman was able to earn her black belt in that school, and she was 30 years younger than me. And yeah, so that's how it started.
Yes. And how do you define these two archetypes in your life? What did being a princess represent, and what does being a warrior queen mean to you now,
Ooh,
Miss
boy, you ask great
Cheryl?
questions.
Thank you.
Well, I always felt like, I come from a family of 5 girls, so I have 4 sisters. And out of the 5 of us, I was the one that was the most prissy, the most, feminine. I was kind of delicate. I liked things like Pilates and tutus and toe shoes and pedicures and that type of thing. So I always was a little bit more of a princess than the rest of my sisters and considered myself a very, very fussy girl. And when I'm looking at this martial art, I'm going, "Oh my God, that is not me." Because I watched a few classes before I finally did take them, and they're screaming and kicking and yelling and punching and throwing each other to the ground. And I thought, "Oh, I don't want to do that." And I especially didn't want to get thrown to the ground. But I was at a point, Daniel, where I had nowhere else to go. I had tried therapy to get over the trauma. I tried a lot of other different things. Nothing was helping. So I thought, well, what else have I got to lose except maybe, get hit and, pushed around a little bit by a bunch of strange men. So I went to the dojo thinking I would only take 1 or 2 classes. And my very first class, I won't say I loved it because I didn't. It was terrifying. But even in that first class, I felt something deep inside of me start to come alive. And, as I said, I'm a ballet dancer, so I know how to move, but this was a completely different kind of movement. But it was through that one class that I started to find my center. I started to feel grounded again, and I started to finally find my voice. And that's how it all began.
Yes, and what a nice story, Miss Cheryl.
Thank you.
What did your ninja training consist of in your real life? Were there specific skills, mindset shift, or a series of difficult conversations you had to learn to navigate?
All of the above. You nailed it. Everything. It helped me with my communication skills. It helped me with my confidence. It helped me navigate through situations that prior to my training and having that kind of a background, I probably would have either just, thrown a cover over my head and run screaming into the night, or I wouldn't have known how to handle it. But when you're training in an art like this, and it's considered a soft art. It's a very traditional Japanese, ancient Japanese martial art. So there's a lot of spirituality that goes along with it, a lot of self reflection, a lot of respect that we show our sensei, we show each other, the way we enter the room, the way we exit a room, the way we enter into training with another ninja. It's just it gives you a whole different perspective on what respect really means and how to center yourself and how to not get swept away with minutia that gets thrown your way on a daily basis, if that makes any sense.
Makes sense, Miss Cheryl. And A warrior has armor, but a queen leads with heart. How did you learn to balance building necessary boundaries with styling open, vulnerable, and compassionate?
Oh, you really do ask the best questions. It comes with a lot of patience, a lot of perseverance, a lot of practice, a lot of introspection. And like I said, just the practice really is very, very important. And you get that in the dojo. Fortunately, I was in a very, very good dojo, with the people that you're working with. So we really would help each other and we would kind of call each other out when we would say, Now you're acting a little bit inappropriately or you're pushing too much." So we would teach each other. And when you're have that kind of relationship in a safe environment, even though they're trying to, attack you, it really gets a rhythm going. It really, as I said, it lights something up deep in your brain, deep in your heart, and deep in your soul that nothing rattles you as much as it used to, or as much, it doesn't have power over you. Having said that, you and I had a conversation before we started recording. I just moved to a new state and a new little town, and I'm getting shaken up and rattled almost every single day. Like, for example, I got lost in my own neighborhood, the first week we moved out here. So I was able to calm myself down, work on my breathing, not to get too rattled, to stay focused, say, "Hey, Siri, help me get home." It's just little things like that make a huge, huge difference in somebody's life.
Definitely. And Miss Cheryl, what was the first, or what the very first small, concrete action you took that made you think, okay, maybe I can do this? Maybe there's a warrior in here after all.
It was actually that very first class when and there were so many people. First of all, I didn't want to be the only woman in class, and I did say that to Mark, my sensei. I said, "I don't want to be the only woman. I'll feel so out of place and so awkward." And he says, "Oh, don't you worry about it. We have plenty of girls in class, and a lot of women who are higher ranking would be happy to take you under their wing and teach you what it means to be a female warrior and the art of the ninja." Blah blah blah. Well, so the first time I show up for a class, not only was I the only woman in class, I was the only woman within like a 10-mile radius. And I'm in this room with about 20 strange men, all dressed in these heavy black gis. And I thought, "Oh my God, where is the back door? I cannot do this." And Mark came in, he started the class, and he was showing us a technique that we were supposed to practice. Well, I didn't see the technique because I had my eyes, closed and my hands over my eyes the whole time because the sound effects were bad enough with the screaming and the sound of bodies hitting the ground. It was just terrifying. And when I opened my eyes, I saw this black belt walking toward me. And I thought, "Oh my goodness, I'm in trouble now." And he stopped and he in front of me and he bowed and he said something in Japanese. And I had no idea what he said. And I
Mm.
just kind of stood there. And finally, he was looking like he wanted me to do something. So I said, "I didn't know what to do. And I don't know any Japanese." So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I curtsied and I said,
Mhm.
"Enchante." And he looked at me like I had lost my mind. And finally he said, "Well," he says, let's just move on." He says, "I want you to kick me." And I said, "I don't want to kick you. I don't kick people. I've never kicked anybody in my life and I'm not going to start now." And he goes, "No, really, I do want you to kick me." And he's pointing like to his abdomen. And I said, "But I'm afraid I'm gonna hurt you." And he got this big smile on his face. And, you could tell he thought I was absolutely adorable. And he says, "Oh, don't worry. You won't hurt me. I know how to protect myself." And I'm still looking like below the belt level. And I says, "But, I don't want to miss and get you in the, sensitive areas." And he says, "Well, I don't want that either." He says, "Come on, you can do it. Just go ahead and kick me." And I'm like, "Okay," but I didn't know how to kick anybody. But I did know enough ballet, and I know how to do a grand jeté and a leap. So I picked up my right leg and I drove my pointed toes deep into his abdomen. He flew up in the air, flew backwards, landed on his butt, and he was bending. He was clutching, trying to catch his breath. And he said, "That was pretty good. Actually, that was really good. Where did you learn how to kick like that?" And I didn't know it at the time, but Sensei was watching this entire exchange, and he came over and he walked up to me and he just looked down at me. He was much taller than me. And he said, "How many years of ballet?" And at the time, it was 27. So I looked up at him and I said, 27. And he just nodded with this look on his face. And he said to the black belt, he said, "Don't let the package fool you. She's a lot stronger than she looks." And I swear I heard angels singing. And I think that was the moment. It was like, "Oh my gosh, I am a lot stronger than I look and a lot stronger than I think I am." And I think that is true for every woman. We don't realize the amount of strength and power that we have in each and every one of us. There's that warrior spirit that is just waiting to come out and waiting to be let loose and waited to share with the world. So that's kind of how that first day started.
So, Miss Cheryl, as an author, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Oh my, as an author, my short-term and long-term goals. Well, my short-term goal, one, is just to completely finish packing and settle into my new home. We're getting there. My long-term goal is I am currently working on a sequel to The Reluctant Ninja. And that book is going to be called Secrets of a Warrior Queen. And in that book, I'm going to have, and it's already half written, it's going into the editing, I think, sometime in January or February. But in the book, I'm going to include the philosophies, the mindset, the behaviors, all kind of philosophies and things that I learned in martial arts that other women can use in their everyday life to keep themselves safe, to keep themselves grounded, to find their warrior spirit without spending over 20 years in a smelly dojo with a bunch of sweaty men the way I did. Because I know a lot of women aren't real excited about doing something like that. I wasn't excited about it myself at first until I found out how much fun it was and how empowering. So that's my next goal, is to get that book written. And I am currently also working on, it's kind of like a family history slash memoir of, how I was raised, where we grew up. My father was an immigrant from what was then Czechoslovakia, which is, that's why I have such a strange last name. I kept my maiden name. He and my grandmother actually left Eastern Europe on the last ship out of Calais on December 29th, 1939, before they closed the port. So it's the way we were raised, very Eastern European as well as American at the same time. Was pretty fun. And I had like I said, four sisters and three girl cousins, and they were Serbian Orthodox, and we were, Eastern European. It was just, it was a very, very wonderful way to grow up.
Yes, indeed, and good luck to your goals, Miss Cheryl, and looking forward for more success. And
Thank you.
what would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be an author like you, a warrior
Oh,
as well as a princess?
yes. You know, my don't put it off. That's my first bit of advice. If you think there's a book in you, and I know there is, because there is at least one book in each and every one of us just waiting to be written. So what I would do, instead of thinking, "Oh my gosh, I've got to sit down here and I've got to write this book," don't do it that way. You can start by either journaling. A lot of people journal. I started with blog posts. So I was doing blog posts first for my first book, on fitness over 50 and stuff. And before I knew it, I had an outline that I could follow to write the book. And I did the same thing with The Reluctant Ninja. I had started writing a lot of blog posts because it was so ridiculous. Most of the time, I was the only woman in class with all of these big, hairy men trying to hit me. So I wrote a lot of those posts, blog posts too, and that was the basis for my second book. So whatever works for you, everybody has their own technique, their own style. Find your rhythm and play with it. Don't put any pressure on yourself of, oh my gosh, I've got to finish this book.
Mm-hmm.
No, just think of it as, let me tell a story. And I'm going to tell a story that, maybe nobody wants to hear it right now, but believe me, they are going to want to hear it. They're going to want to read it, and it's going to motivate other people to do some things that they thought they wouldn't have done before.
Yes, and thank you for that advice, Miss Ariel. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence you, Johnny?
I wished I could. I thought about this for a long time, and I really can't think of anything except, this is going to sound so silly, but a book that Santa Claus gave
Mm-hmm.
me and my two older sisters in 1956. And it's a storybook, Gateway to Storyland. It has all kind of, like fairy tales and things in it. And in that book was a poem that I just fell in love with as a little girl. It's called The Sugar Plum Tree. And it was my happy place. I mean, my sisters even bought me a little tree and planted it that, hey, look, you have a sugar plum tree now. But when things got really rough for me, when I'm going through a really bad time, I look at that sugar plum tree book, and I just, my mind goes back to it, that no matter how bad things get, things will improve. It will always get better. All you have to do
Mm.
is go outside, take a walk, look at your own little sugar plum tree, whatever it is, and that's the one thing that just really kept me going.
Yes, definitely. Keep going and going and going.
Yep.
And Miss Cheryl, how this journey reshape your understanding of what happily ever after actually looks like in real life?
Ooh, like I said, you ask the best questions. Happily ever after, to me,
Mm,
is being able to live your life comfortable in your own skin, being confident, being able to walk into a room and talk to anybody in that room, and just realizing that we all have a lot more in common than we think we do.
yes, definitely. We have something in common for sure. And
Mhm.
to wrap up our discussion for today, Miss Cheryl, if you could have every woman who reads your book embody one single quality of the warrior queen, what would it be and why?
Mm. I want to say, don't be afraid to stand your ground. And when you stand your ground, do it with flexibility. Don't be stubborn and rooted. Just know that you can go with the flow and you're never stuck in one position. You can always move, and that will keep you going.
Yes, for sure. You always be move and move and move if you want to be successful in life. Let it go
Absolutely.
and move.
Mhm.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss
Thank you.
Cheryl.
Thank you for
Thank you.
having me.
Yes, and can you please invite our listeners to support your all your books, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
You can go to my website. It's just CherylIlov.com, and you can see all of the services that I provide, that I offer. You can go to Amazon and check out the books there. And if you want to connect with me, please, you can email me through my website if you have any questions about being a warrior queen, about how to find a dojo, which is really important. If you're looking to take martial arts, you want to make sure that you end up in the right place. Feel free to email me. I will reply and give you the best advice that I possibly can.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Cheryl. I love because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Miss Cheryl, Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you, Daniel. I really enjoyed our time together. Great questions, my friend.
Thank you, and Moticam people, see you soon.